Before fate separated them, there was one afternoon that changed everything. A secret rendezvous, a hidden route among the rubble of Midgar, a final gift from Zack to AERITH. Today, you will hear that story as it was never told to you, in her own words. What surprises did Zack have in store, and why was that afternoon forever etched in AERITH'S heart? Get ready to find out.
I'll never forget that afternoon in Midgar. The streets felt different, as if the city wanted to whisper something new to me between its shadows. Every corner, every worn-out building seemed to hold some secret. It was one of those days when the sky made an extraordinary effort to shine, beyond the eternal opacity of the upper plate. Although the sun never managed to completely penetrate the steel and cement, the air had a strange clarity. It was almost magical, as if Midgar was trying to take a deep breath for the first time in a long time. Zack had warned me not to make plans, that this time I would let myself be completely carried away by the unexpected. I tried to get details out of him. I asked him questions. I put on a face of feigned seriousness. But nothing worked. Zack just smiled at me. He winked with that mischievous complicity of his, and he left without revealing a single word. That mystery always made me anxious and excited in equal measure. With Zack, you never knew exactly what to expect. Only that whatever it was, it would be something unforgettable. My heart raced, just thinking about the endless possibilities behind that smile of his. I spent the whole morning at the church tending to my flowers, trying to distract myself to no avail. As I watered each pot, I imagined what kind of surprise Zack was preparing. Every drop of water seemed to feed not only my flowers, but also my restless fantasies. When he finally appeared, he was wearing a smile so wide it seemed to fit on his face. I watched his hands expectantly, but he was carrying absolutely nothing. Of course, that absence was part of the game. Zack always knew how to maintain the mystery until the last moment. He extended his hand toward me and simply asked me to follow him. No explanations, no clues. Just trust. I hesitated for only a moment before agreeing. With Zack, you didn't need clear or logical reasons. Just knowing he was there was enough for everything to work out. We walked slowly through Sector 5, but not toward my church or any familiar place. We turned into a narrow, almost hidden alley. I barely recognized it. I felt like I was entering a whole new world. That uncertainty made my pulse race. The first surprise was a metal fence decorated with paper flowers. I recognized those flowers immediately. They were the same ones I used to lovingly give to the children at the orphanage. This time, they formed a beautiful, delicate arch. Above that fence hung a crooked sign, hand-painted in childlike letters. Welcome to AERITH'S Walk. Those words made my heart beat so hard I felt it would burst out of my chest. I didn't know whether to laugh with happiness or cry with emotion. It was all too beautiful, perfectly imperfect, as always with Zack. He watched me with shining eyes, patiently waiting for me to absorb every detail. He looked proud, satisfied, as if he'd woven every piece especially for me. Excitedly waiting for me to discover everything step by step. We crossed the decorated gate together. We walked down a long corridor between abandoned buildings and forgotten ruins. However, everything looked different now. Colorful ribbons fluttered from the weathered ceilings. Happy drawings made by children adorned the faded walls. And small pots of flowers balanced in impossible places. It was like a small, everyday miracle. Every step I took was a discovery in itself. I wasn't just walking along a decorated path, but along a story woven with dedication and tenderness. Every corner seemed to hold a message. Every object was there for a purpose, a token of affection, a small work of art made by hands that knew the value of simplicity. And then, those notes, written in shaky, heartfelt handwriting, saying things like, "Thank you, Aerith," and making me stop, take a deep breath, and smile helplessly. That's when I truly understood. Zack hadn't done it alone. This wasn't just a surprise on his part, it was a collective act, a silent orchestra in which every person in Sector 5 had played their part. I saw the imprints of many different hands in every detail. Children who probably cut paper flowers until they fell asleep. Adults who put aside their own worries for a moment to put up posters, clean paths, hang ribbons. Even elderly people, barely able to walk, would have contributed something, even if it was just a word of encouragement or a flower from their window. Everyone had wanted to be a part of it. It was as if each of those gestures had become a petal, and together they formed a path to something greater, as if they were guiding me, step by step, to the very heart of the perfect date. Not because it was luxurious, but because it was human. We arrived at an area that had once been a market. I remembered passing through there in other times, when there was still movement, voices, bartering. Now, silence reigned, but it wasn't a sad silence. The empty stalls were decorated with carefully picked wildflowers, colorful fabrics that danced in the breeze, and makeshift garlands made of bottle caps that reflected the light like jewels. On one of the counters, a modest box rested, and on it, a note written in simple calligraphy that read, "For when you want to open your own stall, we'll save it for you." I brought my hands to my mouth without thinking. It was too much. I didn't cry, but something inside me broke in the best possible way, as if a part of me had fused with that moment forever. We continued walking, and the path led us to a tunnel. But it wasn't just any tunnel. It was decorated with handmade lanterns, each one unique, imperfect, wonderful. They were rusty cans, soup cans, shards of colored glass, all transformed into light by hands that had wanted to leave their mark. Inside them, small lights flickered softly, and in some, there were dried flowers, like encapsulated memories. We didn't say a single word. We walked in silence, our footsteps echoing against the damp old walls. Zack touched my hand, barely for a moment. Nothing else was needed. That gesture, brief and sincere, said everything words couldn't. As we exited the tunnel, the light outside blinded us for a few seconds. We had to squint. In front of us, The old abandoned station emerged, the same one that used to be the pride of Midgar, and now only sheltered shadows and dust. But not this time. Zack had transformed her. Under the rusty awning, a wooden table waited between the rails. It was covered with a white tablecloth, somewhat wrinkled but clean. On it, 2 plates, 2 mismatched but clean and well-kept crystal glasses, and in the center, a vase with a single fresh flower, one of mine. The air was filled with the warm scent of soup, and to one side of the platform, a large thermos steamed like a makeshift fireplace. Zack looked at me with that smile of his as if to say, "Do you like it?" And I didn't need to ask. He'd cooked, or maybe he'd convinced someone else to, but the gesture was his, completely his. We sat together. The meal wasn't ostentatious at all, but it had everything that mattered. Intention, warm bread, generously chunked vegetable soup, and fruit cut into star shapes. I couldn't stop looking at every detail. Everything on that table spoke to me. It spoke to me about him. When we finished, Zack took out a small old CD player. He placed it on the table and carefully pressed play as if the device might break at any moment. A soft piano melody filled the air. It came and went, mixed with the hum of Midgar's old electricity, but that didn't take away from its beauty, on the contrary. Zack stood up, extended his hand with an exaggerated bow, and I, laughing inwardly, took it. And so, among rusted rails and hanging flowers, we danced. I spun slowly in his arms, as if the city had stopped just for that moment. We didn't need more. When the music faded, Zack said nothing. He just took my hand again and led me down a new path. We climbed a narrow staircase made of creaking metal to a high walkway overlooking all of Sector 5. To one side, a leak of water dripped from the slab, creating a small puddle among the broken stones. And next to that puddle, a planter, just one. And inside, a single flower. It wasn't mine. It was Zack's. He had planted it with his own hands. And in the ground, a small wooden stick where, clumsily, he had written my name. It was his way of telling me that, even if one day he was no longer here, a part of me would continue to grow, alive in this place. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I just hugged him, tightly, with all my being. That afternoon didn't need fireworks or eternal promises. It only needed truth and love.